Star Trek Lower Decks has a perfect way to jump to live action if Tawny Newsom's Star Trek comedy happens. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 is the final season on Paramount Plus, and it's unclear what's next for Newsom's LT. Beckett Mariner, Jack Quaid's LT, Brad Boimler, and their fellow Lower Deckers on the USS Cerritos. Star Trek Lower Decks creator Mike McMahan hinted that his animated comedy's finale will close a chapter on the Lower Deckers' lives. Perhaps Tawny Newsom can help determine what's next. Tawny Newsom and Jack Quaid were able to portray Mariner and Boimler in live action in Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2's acclaimed comedic crossover. Even though Newsom is saying goodbye to voicing Mariner on Star Trek Lower Decks, she has become a creative force behind the scenes for Star Trek. Star Trek executive producer Alex Kurtzman praised Newsom as a stone-cold assassin as a writer and brought Tawny into the writer's room of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. From that success, Newsom and Justin Simien began developing Star Trek's first live-action workplace comedy, which was announced at San Diego Comic-Con. Tawny Newsom's live-action Star Trek comedy could be where she and her Star Trek Lower Decks castmates revive their characters, but this time in the flesh. In an interview with CinemaBlend, Newsom affirmed that her in-development Star Trek comedy is set in Star Trek Picard's 25th century era by design, so that characters from Lower Decks and Picard can potentially appear and be roughly the appropriate ages of the characters who play them. Check out Tawny's quote below. Star Trek Picard Season 3 ended in 2402, and Tawny Newsom and Justin Simien's Star Trek comedy is set afterward or around that same time frame. Their in-development comedy is reportedly a workplace comedy set on a pleasure planet, which opens the door for all manner of Star Trek characters to appear, perhaps looking for shore leave. But it also sounds like creating a means for Star Trek Lower Decks cast to reprise their characters in live action was part of Newsom's design. Although the Lower Deckers would be roughly 20 years older in Picard's 25th century, Jack Quaid, Noel Wells, and Eugene Cordero have already told Screen Rant they'd love to play their Lower Deckers in live action. Tawny Newsom mentioning not having to de-age Jonathan Frakes in her untitled Star Trek workplace comedy indicates she and Justin Simien have an eye on incorporating Star Trek Picard's characters last seen at the end of Season 3. Picard wrapped with an unfulfilled setup for a continuation about Captain 7 of 9, Jerry Ryan, and the USS Enterprise G that has been dubbed Star Trek Legacy. However, Paramount Plus never put Star Trek Legacy in development. While the cast and creative team have expressed their desire to return, Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas moved on to new projects at Marvel Studios and 20th Century Studios. It's quite possible that Star Trek Legacy is a pie-in-the-sky idea that may not come to fruition. However, Tawny Newsom's Star Trek comedy could incorporate Star Trek Legacy guest stars. The comedic possibilities of Captain 7 of 9, Commander Raffi Musiker, Michelle Hurd, and Ensign Jack Crusher, Ed Speleers, staying in a dysfunctional resort world are endless. Perhaps Captain Will Riker, Jonathan Frakes, and his wife, Counselor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis, could even vacation on Tawny Newsom's Star Trek pleasure planet. Tawny Newsom was quick to stress to CinemaBlend that her untitled Star Trek comedy is only in development and that she and Justin Simien have not received a green light from Paramount Plus. Star Trek on Paramount Plus has scaled down to just 3 upcoming projects. Star Trek Section 31, which premieres as the first Star Trek streaming movie on January 25, 2025. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 in 2025, and Season 4 in 2026, and Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which is filming Season 1 and 2 back-to-back for potential 2026 and 2027 premieres. It's possible that Star Trek on Paramount Plus may ramp up more Star Trek production following the end of Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Lower Decks, and Star Trek Prodigy on the streamer. If so, Tawny Newsome and Justin Simien's untitled Star Trek workplace comedy is in a prime position to go from development to production. While Newsome and Simien will populate their show with new and original characters, Tawny Newsome's untitled Star Trek workplace comedy seems to be designed with a welcome open-door policy for Star Trek Lower Decks characters to appear in live action.